Sometimes, a single act of defiance can unearth truths buried deeper than the ground itself. My name's Ethan Harper, but folks around here just call me Ethan. 6 months ago, I inherited 15 acres of prime farmland from my grandfather, a stubborn old man named George who'd spent his life shielding his fields from the greedy claws of developers. The farm sat like a green oasis in the middle of what used to be quiet countryside, but was now choking under the weight of suburban sprawl. Perfectly trimmed lawns and cookie-cutter houses surrounded my land, their sameness almost suffocating. A dirt road sliced through my property, connecting the upscale Willow Creek neighborhood to the main highway. Legally, it was my private land, no question. But to the residents of Willow Creek, it was their personal shortcut, a way to shave a couple of minutes off their commute. Most neighbors were decent about it. They'd wave as they passed, maybe buy some zucchini in season, and generally respected that they were crossing my turf. Then there was Lillian Caldwell. Lillian wasn't just the president of the Willow Creek HOA. She was a force of nature wrapped in designer clothes, driving a spotless silver BMW SUV that gleamed like it had never seen a speck of dust. The first time we met, she was tapping her manicured nails on her car's hood while I repaired a fence post she'd smashed with her side mirror. Her auburn hair was swept back in a style that probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill, and her casual outfit screamed money. "You must be George's grandson," she said, skipping any apology for the damage. "I'm Lillian Caldwell, HOA president. Just so you know, this road's been a community staple for years. Your grandfather never minded, and I'm sure a sensible guy like you won't either." The way she said sensible made it clear that disagreeing was a one-way ticket to trouble. I kept hammering the post and gave her a tight smile. "Ma'am, this is private property. I'm happy to talk about some kind of formal agreement, but right now, folks are driving through without permission." Her laugh was sharp, like breaking glass. "Sweetie, you're the only one complaining. This shortcut saves everyone from the mess on Highway 12. I'm sure we can find a solution that works for all." She slid back into her BMW, rolled down the window, and added, "I'd hate for you to stir up trouble with the community. HOA rules can be tricky for newcomers." Before she sped off, I tossed out a question. "If this becomes an issue, should I fence it off, or maybe dig something to slow traffic?" Her smile turned cold. "Try it, sweetie. I've got lawyers on retainer." I grinned back. "I've got a shovel." That evening, I walked the road, really seeing it for the first time since I'd moved in. It cut through my grandfather's irrigation system, splitting the farm in half. Tire tracks scarred the dirt, and I found cigarette butts, soda cans, and even a broken beer bottle tossed into my squash plants. Worse, I spotted fresh tire marks where someone had stopped to take photos of my land-calculated shots, not tourist snapshots. That night, I dug into the property deed. It was clear. The road was private, no easement, no public right-of-way. Every car crossing my land was trespassing. A gate might work, but Lillian didn't seem like the type to stop at a lock. She'd probably claim it violated some obscure HOA rule about visual harmony. I needed something bolder, something that would make her rethink her entitlement. My background in geology gave me an edge. I knew soil, water tables, and how to make a point with a well-placed hole. I started researching county regulations on well drilling and construction permits. As a farmer, I had rights to improve my land for agriculture, and permits for digging deeper than 3 feet were routine. I still had contacts from my days in the drilling industry, and Lillian had just handed me the perfect excuse to use them. My grandfather used to say, "Sometimes you gotta dig deep to find the truth, Ethan. And sometimes you gotta make a hole big enough for folks to fall into." I thought he was being poetic. Now, I wasn't so sure. 3 days after our chat, an official-looking envelope from the Willow Creek HOA appeared under my truck's wiper. Inside was a violation notice claiming my zucchini plants were too aggressive, my fence was the wrong shade of cedar, and my grass wasn't exactly 3 inches tall. The fine schedule read like a ransom note for my wallet. My neighbor, old Jim, a 75-year-old farmer who'd been here before Willow Creek existed, saw me reading it and chuckled. "Lillian started her war, huh? Your granddad fought her for years. Guess it's your turn." Jim revealed Lillian wasn't just a bossy neighbor. A former real estate lawyer, she'd moved to Willow Creek 3 years ago with a plan to turn the area into a luxury resort. She'd been buying up land through shell companies, targeting farms like mine to complete her vision. My grandfather had beaten her in court over road access, and now she saw me as an easy mark. Jim handed me a faded court ruling from 5 years back, signed by Judge Alvarez, stating my road was private and untouchable without county condemnation. Armed with this, I dug deeper. Online records showed Lillian's company's Willow Development LLC, Summit Holdings, and Caldwell Consulting buying properties around Willow Creek at inflated prices. A county filing revealed her dream, a resort with a hotel, golf course, and spa, with my farm slated for parking. She needed my road to make it work. Lillian didn't wait long to escalate. She showed up with her HOA enforcers, a twitchy guy with a clipboard, a woman with a measuring tape, and a photographer snapping my property like it was a crime scene. They parked their matching BMWs in my pumpkin patch and started documenting. Lillian launched into a speech about community values and handed me a packet labeled Mandatory Compliance Schedule, demanding $15,000 in upgrades. The measuring tape woman checked my grass height, fence gaps, and even the spacing of my plants. Lillian smiled like a shark. "Ethan, I know you're new to planned communities. We're here to help you comply. But violations carry daily fines, and the county doesn't like properties that drag down standards." I stayed calm. "I'm not ready for big changes yet. I'll need time to review my options." Her smile tightened. "Don't wait too long. Legal enforcement's no fun." That night, I decided to stop playing defense. My surveys confirmed the road was mine, and the soil where Lillian drove was perfect for a well-stable, well-drained, and over an aquifer 12 feet down. I filed permits for an irrigation well and drainage improvements, both legitimate and perfectly positioned to block her path. The county clerk fast-tracked them, saying agricultural projects were a priority. I called my old colleague, Mike Russo, who ran a drilling company. "A 4-meter well? Easy," he said. "Give me 48 hours notice, and we're there." Meanwhile, I met Sarah Kim, a local blogger running Creek Chronicles. She'd been tracking Lillian's HOA overreach and saw my fight as part of a pattern. "Lillian's forcing out anyone who won't sell," Sarah said, showing me records of other families harassed into selling to Lillian's companies. She'd even posted online, calling me a stubborn farmer who valued property over community. Sarah warned, "She's building a narrative to win public support if this goes to court." I started logging every car crossing my land, snapping license plates and timestamps. My permits came through on a Wednesday, green-lighting a well anywhere I chose. Lillian upped the ante with a lawyer, Victor Hensley, who handed me a packet claiming my farm caused environmental hazards and demanding I grant a 20-foot easement for $1. The kicker? A forged signature from my grandfather, dated when he was in the hospital with a broken leg. Lillian had overplayed her hand. I told Hensley I'd review it with my lawyer, buying time. I called Sarah, who was thrilled about the forgery. "This could mean fraud charges," she said. I asked her to hold off publishing until after the weekend. I had plans. Friday, I confirmed Mike's crew would drill Saturday. I also called Jim, who rallied half the county's farmers for a community project. Saturday morning, Mike's rig rolled in, and by noon, we had a 4-meter hole, 2.5 meters wide, dead center in Lillian's shortcut. Jim suggested covering it with plywood painted like dirt, sprinkled with leaves for camouflage. It was invisible. Sunday, we installed the well components, meeting every county spec. By evening, the site looked normal, but Lillian's Monday commute was about to get interesting. Monday at 7:30 a.m., a crash shook my house. Lillian's BMW had plunged into the well, only its roof visible above the mud. Steam hissed, and the horn wailed. Lillian was soaked but unharmed, her fury palpable through the rear window. I called 911, feigning panic. "Mrs. Caldwell, don't move. Help's coming." Firefighters, Sheriff Dan Carter, and medics arrived. As they pulled Lillian out, I spotted papers floating in the muddy water contracts, bribery notes, and multiple copies of the forged signature. I pointed them out to Carter. "Might want to grab those before they're ruined." The documents were a gold mine. Proof of Lillian's resort plans, payoffs to county officials, and forgery instructions. Lillian screamed about sabotage, but Carter noted my permits made the well legal. Sarah arrived, snapping photos for her blog. "This is unreal," she said. The tow crew needed 2 trucks and a crane to haul out the wrecked BMW. its interior a muddy ruin. By noon, the scene was a circus. Lillian, dripping and humiliated, faced Carter's questions about the documents. The insurance adjuster grilled her on why she was driving through private land. Sarah's article, HOA President's BMW Dives into Property Dispute, went viral, sparking a flood of neighbor complaints about Lillian's tyranny. Wednesday, the HOA called an emergency meeting. The community center was packed, and Lillian looked defeated. She rambled about community safety, framing my well as a hazard. I stood up with a projector, showing the forged signature, bribery emails, and her resort map. The crowd gasped. Neighbors shared their own stories, fines for flower beds, threats over parked boats. The room erupted with questions Lillian couldn't answer. A board member, Carla Lopez, called for a no-confidence vote. It passed 52-1, stripping Lillian of power. A week later, Lillian appeared on my porch. No BMW, no polish, just a tired woman with a letter. "It's not a threat," she said. "It's an apology." Her note confessed how her divorce and estranged daughter drove her to control everything. The resort was her attempt to build something unassailable, but it turned her into a bully. The forgery started small, but snowballed. She was dropping all legal fights, dissolving her companies, and moving away. "I'm not who I want to be," she wrote. We sat quietly, the weight of her words sinking in. She left, and I walked to the well, now filled and feeding my expanded garden. I built a footbridge nearby, the Harper Crossing, for neighbors to use and nod to community without sacrificing my rights. Sarah's follow-up story praised the bridge as a symbol of healing. The HOA shifted to service, not control. Lillian apologized to everyone before leaving. The resort plan died, replaced by a community park. Jim and I started a produce program, and the bridge's garden became a neighborly hub. Lillian's fall forced us all to dig deeper, exposing truths about power, pride, and redemption. Have you ever stood your ground and changed someone's path? Share below. If this story hit home, a like or donation keeps these tales alive. Let's build bridges, not wells.